Good evening, folks. I'm going to call this meeting of the Facilities Committee to order. Dan, could we have a roll call, please?
Goss,
Present.
Harper,
Present.
Loxton, Rodriguez, Taylor,
Here.
Woken,
Here.
Bennett Steernot,
Here.
Summers.
Present. All right. Can I have a motion for the approval of the agenda? Mr. Goss,
Second.
motion. Leah Taylor with a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Also for approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion?
So moved, Loxton.
Okay, and a second. Great. Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I do not see any members of the public that wish to address us. Do any board members have any communications at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Update A, satellite jail HVAC replacement. We've got a report attached. Dana, do you want to go over this, please?
We've got Richard Van Note here from GHR Engineering, who's in charge of that project from GHR. Richard, do you want to give us an update, talk about the latest field report, and kind of where we're at?
Yeah, as we discussed last time, the project is really kind of moving along the way we had hoped. We're getting piping in place. We're starting to get the insulation in place. We're starting to get some of the piping across the roof of the building, kind of getting the last of that infrastructure basically in place to move forward. As we also discussed last time, the one major issue that we're up against on this project is tied to the lead times on the air handlers. Those lead times have been pushed back to where those air handlers will not be here at this point in time until early July. That's something that we've already had a discussion with the contractor. We've had a discussion with the sales rep and had discussions with Dana as well as to kind of how that affects the scheduling on this project. At this point in time, based upon that delivery date, we understand completely that that is not the time to be replacing the air handlers on that building. Those air handlers are used to kind of condition the inmate housing, and that inmate housing cannot be brought down during that time of year. The intent then would be to bring those air handlers in. They would be stored and held, and then whenever we reached basically a better time during the late September, October months, we would go ahead and move forward with replacement of the air handlers. By that point in time, all of the infrastructure should be in place. The piping should be done, the boilers, chillers, controls, everything should basically be sitting there ready to go to where whenever we have the air handlers, we get that taken care of.
This is a supply chain issue that's been ongoing. The units were, I don't know if we told you the last meeting, but they were actually ordered back in June of 21. Delivery dates, September, October originally, and then pushed back to November, and then December, and then a big promise to be here by February, but unfortunately, they're not even close. So it's a problem for a lot of folks. It's a concern also, I will tell you, for some of our upcoming projects as we look at doing some other things at 2 other buildings. But both the general contractor and GHR have been stellar in trying to work with Carrier and getting these units produced. They beat them up pretty good, and they know the urgency. They know what building they're going into, so they understand both the complexity of the project, but also just the fact that we're housing these folks 24/7, and we have to be able to provide them with stable and cool air when it's necessary and heat when it's necessary. So we'll push this back, the final, hopefully, installation into middle to late October when it's a little cooler, so.
I think that's the best way to kind of put it. We've dealt with numerous projects within our company, just dealing with other projects. At this point in time, it's the fan motors. We've gone to the manufacturers. We've kind of provided them with what we thought were maybe a couple of alternatives on how to switch the systems, how to get them here quicker, anything that we could do to try to just improve our lead times, improve that delivery date. And it kind of seems to be an issue across the board. So it's something that we've done our best to kind of battle, but this is kind of where we are on this one. And like I said, we're going to have this in place to where whenever we do have them, we're ready to go. We're ready to go.
Dana, when we talked earlier, you indicated you were going to check and see about the Ameren credits that we were going to be getting. Did you have any update on that? I know this is a timeline situation that other people are probably facing too.
Yes, I have, so I sent emails to our group, GHR, and to Alpha. And Richard has had conversations with Alpha. Alpha has really shepherded the Ameren grant from beginning through the process. We've already extended it at least one other time, but I want to ensure that that grant is still available. It's significant. It's a six-figure grant for us, so it's going to be providing some funding for this project. So I've asked that they contact Ameren and look into giving them an updated date for completion that's still within the realm of possibility. So we'll continue to work with them and believe that Ameren will hold through to their approval to fund this project.
Yeah, in terms of the Ameren incentive, we've had a couple of projects in the past that just due to certain delays have had to be extended a few times. The first extension is usually fairly straightforward. You ask them to extend, and they go, "Okay, we'll provide that extension." With the second extension, the only kind of caveat that comes with that second extension is they usually require the engineer of record on the project, which would be me in this case, to provide them with a written explanation as to kind of where we are in the project, how far along we are in the project, the reasons as to why there have been delays in the project, and why they should move the completion date for their system. We've never had issues with this in the past, so I don't see this being a problem. The letter has already been typed, it's been put together, and we've sent that on to Alpha for them to send on to Ameren. So while it's a little more in depth just because we're asking them to extend again, it's nothing that we've had issues with before. So at this point in time, I don't see that being a problem to get that extension out to the later time.
Good to hear. Does anybody have any questions for Richard or for Dana? Go ahead. Jenny?
Oh, sorry. Thank you for everything that you've been doing to try and move this along. It sounds like it's been quite a process. This, I think, may be more of a question for Dana, though. Do we have a facilities plan in place for if the current HVAC system at the jail becomes unusable in the summer months?
The only plan that we have in place is that we're going to use the existing equipment to provide air conditioning for the inmates and the staff working in the building. Our contractor has said that he will help with that endeavor to make sure that the building continues to generate. We have had issues, and we've made them aware of that. It's one of the reasons we wanted this project done before we roll into summer. So, but they've agreed to be on call 24/7, whatever necessary, to come and assist to make sure that we provide air conditioning for the facility.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Richard. Item 6B is the update on County Plaza and program statement discussion for County Department space needs. I don't see Darlene here, but we do have someone
Carla
speaking
Smalley
that'll
from
give us some
Bailey
information.
Edwards
All right.
is here. We've been heavily involved in Zoom meetings, trying to make it as easy for not only the county staff members, but the team put together from Bailey Edwards to start our programming process. So, Carl, I'll let you talk a little bit about what we did last week and what's going on.
Forgetting that. We had about 8 or 10 programming meetings last week with different government entities. You can see the stakeholders that we interviewed or met with for an hour, sometimes 2 hours at a time. We do have an additional meeting set up this week for IT, and we're circling back with one of the other government entities to verify some additional information. And then we'll report back out to the core design committee on Friday, what we've heard from all of the different units. Right now, it's going really well. We've got a lot of good information. So.
We're also been asked by RPC to ask of Bailey Edwards to have them put a proposal together to do programming potentially for them at County Plaza, as well as, and potentially back here at Brookings. So, hopefully they'll get that proposal out to them this week. I've reached out to them today just to keep them apprised of where that's at. So we'll be also sitting down with IT this coming week and have a pretty good conversation with them. Now having control of the building, we're able to get in, and we'll get MC to come over and anybody else from his staff to kind of take a look at how we might get into the building. We're going to have to bring, providing they move with us, they'll have to come in from a couple of different directions in terms of bringing their fiber so that we have backup. If you just bring it in from one direction and you have an issue and you go down, sheriff's office cannot go down. It can't be a result of a problem with a fiber location, so we have to at least bring it in from two different areas. So looking forward to that meeting, and we'll continue meeting with the rest of the group. As Carla said, we're going to sit down with the core design group just to kind of go over all the information that each of the department heads or elected officials have brought to the table about their current space, what they think they need, what they think their growth might be. So I will also say that they've really put a lot of thought into that process for us prior to those meetings. So they've really helped move this thing along. So,
Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead. Go ahead.
And I'm sure you've answered this. Is there a backup generator system in that building, or will we have to do something there?
there is a small generator, but we're going to have a whole building generator put in. That's in our plans. That's been, we've estimated that price going into this process with our mechanical engineers. So sheriff obviously can't go down. Obviously, nobody else can during the day. County clerk can't have an election process interrupted by a power outage.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yes.
Okay. I thought you'd said that. Also, is there any chance I've never been in that building in my life. Is there a chance to get in there and look around?
Sure.
Just call you up.
Yeah. Now that it's ours, we can get in any time we want.
All right. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? Go ahead, Mr. Goss.
Yeah, Dana, since we have redundant IT next door, I mean, I don't perceive that's being an issue since we already have it within a city block. I mean,
Yeah, but we're talking about moving all of our servers from Brookings to there. There's nothing currently coming across the street. We'll have to come across the street, obviously, from the courthouse from one direction and potentially from another direction. So,
but the sheriff's department doesn't currently have redundant IT? Like, in other words, a wire coming from St. Louis, one coming from Chicago?
correct. But we'll have to move that over, and we don't know you know, when that building does go away, you know, will that be interrupted somehow? So
Yeah.
we, there's lots of
I know.
conversations to be had yet with IT services behind the window here, and as we, you know, move along and try and put this project together.
Yeah, I mean, having personally just went through that with my IT team, it sounded really easy. It was not as easy to complete as what we'd hoped, so.
Any further questions? I have one for either Dana or Ms. Smalley. Could you remind me, I know that we're going through this process of space allocation and what different departments' needs are. What is the timeline that's been put forward on this process? I'm trying to think of benchmarks as to at what point we will have some kind of an idea when folks are, you know, is this an assessment where we're going to determine if everyone moves from Brookings or that people are moving from Brookings, I guess would be the first question that I would have, but I'll be quiet and listen.
So right now, we've collected all the square footages of what, like Dana had said, what everyone is currently occupying and what we're looking at them occupying in 5 to 10 years. Right now, our team is putting all that square footage together and seeing if it's going to fit in this building and doing a stacking diagram for our Friday meeting to say, okay, well, you know, we can fit all the puzzle pieces in here like this, and then we can look at it. So I don't have the answer just yet as far as square footage goes. We're trying to move everyone from Brookings into the building. That's our goal right now. But it's certainly not just a feasibility study. I mean, once we figure out who we can fit in the building, if it's everyone, hopefully, then we'll proceed through schematic design on into construction documents, and then we'll be looking at bidding the project in late October, I believe it is, with approvals in November before we go to Thanksgiving, and then we should have a contractor January on site.
I'm just trying to think in terms of how we're going to integrate that with a timeline for bonding as well. But since you've done the square space fingerprint or footprint, as it were, I know we're looking at anticipated needs for different departments. If everyone is utilizing the same space that they're having now, would all of that fit at County Plaza?
We haven't completely finished our square footage collection. So we still have to talk to IT, and we have to circle back with the sheriff. We didn't complete all of his spaces last week.
Okay, thank you. Unless anyone has any more questions, we will move on to the update on the satellite jail consolidation. Dana, please.
Yep. And we've got Chuck Reefstack here from Reefstack Reed, who's our architect for the project.
Good evening. Last month when I was with you, I mentioned we were about a week away from submitting the schematic design phase documents. We did that. We presented those to the committee and were approved to move into design development, which is the phase we're in now. This phase is the one where we really get into the systems and the types of construction and that type of thing. And frankly, we had already done some of that to give our cost estimator as much information as possible last month. But the target date for completion of this is May 18th, when we'll present documents, drawings, outline specifications, and a revised cost estimate. The costs seem to be on target. We had a long discussion about that last week with the county, and moving forward with the plan that you've we all laid out last fall as the types of improvements we want to do. Happy to answer questions.
Don't see any questions. Thank you,
Okay.
Chuck.
Great, thank you.
Okay, moving on to 6D, approval of a contract for circuit clerk carpet replacement project. And Dana has some bids.
Yep. So this is for the circuit clerk's office. We assisted them by putting a bid document together, bidding it out this past month. We had a bid opening on March 31st. Contacted the local vendors, had 4 people very interested, and but we only received 3 bids on the day of opening. Tile specialist was the low bidder at $39,300. The circuit clerk has obtained these dollars through the county board, both for carpet and some of her furniture for her staff inside her area. We look to start this project once we have a contract put in place, and of course, if it's approved, May 31st. I would look to have a motion to accept and award the contract to TSI Commercial Flooring for $39,300.
Can we have a motion to move forward with this? Thank you, Mr. Goss. Second, Ms. Taylor. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Great. I know she'll be happy to get her new carpet.
Yeah.
Other business. We passed around the semi-annual review of closed session minutes. I believe we do need to vote on this. The state's attorney's office indicated we could release the minutes from February 6th, 2018. Trying to see, how would we do this now? Just a motion to release minutes from our February 6th, 2018 meeting. Leah made a motion.
Second.
Beth made a second. All right, motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you much. Okay.
Shortly, you'll be receiving, as board members, 2 budget amendments that Tammy and I put together. These amendments are for current capital asset projects, whether they're insurance funded or part of our last year's capital asset project, and as well as county highway, which is also an insurance reimbursement. These are for, the reimbursements are for the roof projects that have been ongoing. We're still not done. You know, winter came, and you can't do any roof projects when that's around. So we'll be finishing those projects up this spring. But the budget amendment is just to transfer the dollars from last fiscal year to this fiscal year, because it was not originally appropriated for that. So we're looking at 2 amendments. One's for $2.5 million and some change, and the other one for capital highways, $274,000. So that's all been factored into, you know, some of the projects have got pay applications already that were paid out last year. Some are forthcoming. So, but we should end up with all of the projects, and particularly the roofing projects and the hail damage HVAC projects, be done prior to July, which is the deadline for our insurance company. So
We don't have to take any action at this point, do we, Dana? Okay, all right.
just wanted to alert you that this was coming, and that if you had any questions, since you're members of the facility committee, you could help answer any other board members' questions, or
Thank you.
if you can. So just trying to keep you apprised.
No presiding officers report. Our future meeting will be May 3rd, Tuesday, 6:30. Designation items be placed on consent, I believe 6D. And if no one has any further information or action, then we stand adjourned. Thank you, folks.